Hello everyone, my name is Peter Lee. I work for the DevRel team at R3. So welcome to this live workshop of Introduction to Corda. Today I will cover this non-technical workshop for you. However, we will have a developer sessions on next Tuesday. My colleague David Awad will primarily leading that technical workshop. So let's get started. Introduction to Corda. So Corda is our primary product. It's a blockchain platform. And today I will show you what it is, the high-level Corda 101, and let's get started. So let's begin with some Corda reference. So if you want to find us, join our community, go to slack.corda.net, and our documentations is on docs.corda.net. Our free training site is training.corda.net, and our Git repository is github/corda. If you want to reach out to us, the public relations, team for developers, which is developer relations, you can email us at devrel@r3.com. And then lastly, you can tweet us at Corda Blockchain and inside R3. So let's begin. At Corda, we believe distributed ledger technology reduces the cost and time to market while increase the speed of business. So what does that mean? So, throughout the history of, business transaction, or throughout the history of business, people spend a lot of time, check the question like, do you know what I know, and do I know what you know? With blockchain, the distributed ledger technology, we can actually achieve that. And that means, as a result, we will reduce the cost and time that people can ship their product to the market. So that's Corda. Before I talk about the software we built, let's talk about the timeline at R3, which is the company I work for. So at the beginning of the September 2014, the first round table of R3 co-founders is held in New York. If you look at the bottom left, you see it's a group of banks. Yeah, that's right. That's why a lot of people refer to us as the bank blockchain. However, throughout the years, right now we're looking at 2020. That's already like 6 years. 6-year pass. We eventually we can proudly claim that we are a blockchain for basically all industry, and we can cover that. I will cover that in our later story. And looking at current core R3 ecosystem, we have 350 firms, around the globe, and that's divided into the ecosystem participant, delivery partners, and infrastructure and tech providers. And also we also have a lot of ISVs. They are building CorDapps in the ecosystem. So that's basically is our current ecosystem. Let's talk about blockchain. That's why you are here, right? So in our eyes, we can define the public blockchain, or Bitcoin or Ethereum, as a blockchain 1.0 and 2.0, because think about the public blockchain. They don't really care about identity. Everything is masked, the public key, private key, and then if you do a transaction with other people, you would know their public key. However, you don't really know who's behind those keys. So that's why, in our eyes, blockchain 1.0, 2.0, they don't have the strong identity. The second one is it doesn't really provide strong privacy. So with public blockchain platform, everything is broadcast over the network. Of course, they are encrypted and serialized, but still, just thinking about working in the real business world, you will never want to have your transaction broadcast to the other participant of your network. That's just basically how business will act in the real world. And of course, a lot of people probably know that currently for Bitcoin is 10 minutes per block. It's automatically set it to be very slow. because it needs to go through a lot of proof of work, so people can reach a consensus of the ledger sort of finality. But in the real world, for transactions, that speed is way too slow. And with Corda, we outrun that transaction through thousands of times. And lastly is integration. So blockchain, a lot of people think about blockchain, they will think, oh, it's whether this application is on Ethereum, or whether, oh, this blockchain is on, for example, a different platform would be like multi-chain or something. But cross-chain integration was not implemented, as far as I know, that none of the public blockchain are openly support interoperability. However, with Corda, we do have pilot programs that support interoperability between with other chains, as well as with easy API interface or easy API connections with your existing system. So that's all the disadvantage that we see from blockchain 1.0 or 2.0 era. So then what are we offering? So we're offering the third, what we see, the third generation blockchain. So we built Corda to be the blockchain for business, because Corda provides strong identity. I will like show them like in the next slide and specifically talk about it, how we show strong identity, and we provide scalability. And we build Corda to be applicable to all industry. And I will also give an example in the later slide. But basically that means, we are no longer, a lot of people falsely think we are just a bank chain. We only work with banks. We are not. We have a lot of application on logistics, supply chain, the supply chain, I mean like the real, for example, the concrete. Yeah, we have a project in the APAC area that they use Corda to track like concrete. And lastly, we want Corda to be a cross-industry ecosystem. That means we do not want to create business silos with this state-of-art technology. We want all industry, they can act interoperably with each other. Meaning, for example, if you, I will use a supply chain example. The supply chain business, like they do a transaction on their business circles. However, if they are start getting a loan from the finance industry, finance like sort of like field, they can also tap into their business circle with a bank circle. And at the same time, insurance company can get involved, and then etc. So truly, like Corda is a blockchain for business. And we expand what we find, like the disadvantage that we see from blockchain 1.0 and 2.0 into the 6 large category of, we can proudly claim that they are the advantage of Corda. We provide strong identity. So in the Corda network, we have a specific service called the network identity manager. So with that service, you can when you're onboarding clients to your network, they will go through a series of auditing. So whatever like you want to check to your clients, that's you can check them. Second is strong privacy. So in the next slide, I will show you that how Corda is a permission blockchain that provides peer-to-peer communication. That means your transaction only going to get seen by you and your counterparty, or like the participant of the transaction. And the third one, Corda offers on-ledger consensus and off-ledger consensus. So off-ledger consensus is basically correlated to the first strong identity point. Is we have a network identity managed service. That means you will not do business with people you don't know. So that's already sort of is a business level consensus that you are reaching before you even start a transaction. And secondly, I talk about the on-ledger consensus. That means our notary system, they will provide a verdict of the transaction that is happening on the network. So I will actually go through that in the next slide. Performance and scalability. So with Corda, I think in last year we have research done by a third-party auditor. Corda is able to handle the end of day transaction of a Nasdaq stock market closing transaction. So that means that's at least thousands of transactions per second. So if anyone are interested in that research, drop in the comments. I will have my colleague David to find the link and then send you. And lastly, so in the blockchain 1.0 and 2.0, we never talk about global interoperability. We talk about integrations. So with Corda, not only we are easy to integrate with other systems, we also have global interoperability across the Corda network. That means your business network is able to interop with other business network at the same time that we do per customer base and then like per customer demand that we are able to research and then work on the interoperability, cross-chain interoperability. And lastly, Corda, the Corda core is open source, and the company R3, we provide a test network, and then we also provide a production network for our clients to onboard. So basically, those are the 6 advantages that we summarize for Corda. Sure. Is there any question on that? I will check the comment area really quick. I see a question like, where can I find the benchmark report? So if you search Corda, if you just search on Google like Corda blockchain and then DTCC. So DTCC is the company that did the benchmark report. That was a year ago, I think. So yeah, David, do you mind to find the link for him? Thank you. Okay, I will carry on to get into the details of Corda. As I mentioned before, Corda is a permission network that provides peer-to-peer communication on a need-to-know basis. So in this simple network that we have 3 participants and 1 notary. The participants are Colorado River Authority, Base Trans Group, and Titan Technology Partners. And we have a notary in the network. So the notary basically is where in the Corda network it provides algorithmic consensus. The notary will record like the transaction hash of your transaction and then records the input of the transaction. So whenever like another transaction coming in, try to use the same input, try to make a double spend attack, the notary gonna like red flag the transaction, and the network basically reject the transaction, saying that, oh, the input that you are trying to double spend is being used before, and you will not be able to use that input again. And the notary are also able to do timestamp. That means the notary are able to put a like time mark on the transaction. So when you build an application, for example, saying that I pay like I file borrow some money from a bank, and the bank says, oh, if I paid the loan back in like a year or like in 6 months, my interest rate is like 5%. But if I pay like if I pay back the loan after a year or like 6 months, my interest starting from the 7th month will be like 10% or something like that. So with that kind of business, you will need the timestamp on the transaction, and that timestamp will be stamped on your transaction via the notary. And lastly, in the circle, you see what else the notary can do is actually verify the validity of the transaction. For example, Colorado River Authority said, oh, I have $1,000 from a Base Trans Group, and I will buy some software from Titan Technology Partners. But Titan Technology Partner says, "Oh, I don't trust you have that $1,000. How did you get it?" So since our system is peer-to-peer communication, they will get into the argument just between them two. The base trans group will never get involved in the transaction because the purchase of the software between Colorado River Authority and Titan Technology Partners never include the base trans group. So how we do it? The notary actually has a feature of looking into the inputs of the transaction and then actually trace back to the history of where did Colorado River Authority get those money. So that's very time consuming, and also that means the notary will have the full visibility of every single dollar of the $1,000 that Colorado River Authority claim that they have, and then they will the notary will start looking into the transaction, the history of each dollar, the composition of the dollar, and then eventually the notary gonna tell Titan Technology and the Colorado River Authority at the same time that, oh, as a notary, I trace back all the way to history of the inputs that Colorado River Authority is using for this purchase transaction, and then I can confidently tell you that he does have that $1,000. So that's so basically it's working like the the Bitcoin, tracing back of history, or other blockchain, public blockchain that you can always do it, but it's very time consuming. And actually a lot of clients, at the current stage, at the current of development, they're not turning on that feature, because for them, as long as the off-ledger consensus is reached before they even start doing any transaction, they are actually okay. Imagine a business network between Bank of America, Chase Bank, and Wells Fargo, right? The only way that you can onboard to that network is go through the network identity manager, and then you got audit, and then you got approved, so you can join the network. And then once you join the network, it's really less likely that Bank of America and the Chase Bank will continue to check, does Wells Fargo really have $1,000 for our transaction? Does Bank of America and the Wells Fargo, they don't necessarily really check every transaction. Oh, does Chase has the money? So doing the client onboarding process, basically almost 50 or 60% of the consensus is already reached from that off-ledger auditing. And with the DLT system, with the blockchain system, everything is just it's like a database. It's like boom, boom, boom. It's just sending transaction and then make it faster. And then only benefits the advantage of DLT, meaning that your data is only yours. You are not sharing with any third parties. Cool. So that's a lot to say on this simple network, and I will actually talk about the whole Corda network. What does it look like? So in the previous slides, we see that the little simple network is on the is right here. So that means the global Corda network is a composition of millions of or thousands of small business network, and all the Corda nodes, they're just the little red dot, and then together they become the Corda network. And just to give you full information about the Corda network, yes, there will still be an identity manager, or you can refer it as a doorman, and it acts like the network map service. So that means you will need to get approved, and then audit or do the KYC once you want to join the Corda network. Same thing as what you need to do for if you onboard a client to join your private network. And on the global network, there are a couple, the yellow dot, they are the notaries, and then the green dots, they are the Corda nodes. By other organizations, by any companies. So this is the Corda network that people will experience. Cool. Any question so far? Let me quickly look the chat. I see a question that I would just like repeat just in case someone else has the same question. If it's a need-to-know basis, then is there any way to trace back a product transaction log all the way back to the supply chain downstream? So yeah, of course. So in that case, I will just answer that question and then I will move on. So for the supply chain case, if you, for example, the end consumer is, let's say, Whole Foods, right? It's an American grocery store, and the client, the consumer, file a complaint about like a bag of spinach is rotten, right? And then the store manager will go to the system, the application, and then try to see where does this bag of spinach has been. So when you write your application, you can store all those information in there. So for example, who's the shipping company, right? And so one of in the labels of the spinach is the shipping company, like for example, Base Trans Group, right? And then you will see who's the food distributor. For example, if it's like just a Whole Food, right? Whole Food distributing center, right? And then another thing is like who's the producer or who's the farmer. So all those fields you can store in your like the tag, and then in the Corda we call it state, and I will actually cover that in later. You can all those information you can store it in the state, and then when you retrieve that, all those database, like for example, you want to retrieve the information about this specific bag of spinach, you scan the tag, and then all those like who's a logistic partner, who's a distributor, who's a farmers, all those information shows up. And then what you can do is actually you pull further information from those companies, because distributed ledger technology, meaning that all your database is somewhat connected, right? And once you fire that, fire that, like tracing flow or tracing, action, all those database will just give you the information that you need for. You don't need to grab the phone, call the shipping company, what happened, right? And then the shipping company doesn't know what happened. The shipping company grabbed the phone, called the distributor, right? And the distributor grabbed the phone, called the farmers. All of that will be gone. So what you need to, all you need to do is just you enter the tag, and then the system will brings up all the information, right? And then, like for example, if the distributor thing is not their fault, at the same time they can use the tag of that, like the bag of spinach, like from the period of time that the distributor had this bag of spinach in their warehouse, right? And then they will brings up the record according to that time period. Say the temperature is right, and the humidity is right. So you see, here's the record, right? It's not my fault, right? So that's how in the supply chain example, how of those trace of history will be presented by just a single click, because with a DLT system, all the database is connected, and they only share the need to know information. So they don't need to worry about, oh, I don't want to connect my database to the system because they're gonna see everything. No, they can't. They can only see what happened with this bag of spinach. Okay, I hope that answers your question. I will move on. So enough about the Corda in general and then the Corda network. Let's take a look at what the Corda node can do. So in short, Corda nodes abstract away the complexity of updating a ledger. So we have talked so many advantage of blockchain system, but when you really thinking about implementation, a blockchain system is actually very complicated. It has a lot of stuff that you need to take care. At the bottom of the page, you see the messaging between different distributed node. Concurrency is like, what if I have the two transactions coming at the same time, right? Storage, like where is my data is stored? Is it encrypted? Is it like serialized? Everything. Data recovery, peer discovery. This is actually a very important thing. Is in the world of distributed system, everything is like you only work with the partner that you work with. There's no like a central dispatch center that you can call and asking for information. But don't worry, all those things the Corda node will take care for you. So as you see in the center, like the Corda node, you can think it as an all-in-one DLT updating engine, right? On the left you see flows. So flows are the Corda executables. And for 3 examples, we have token issuance flow, create a mortgage flow, crowdfunding flow. So those are all executables, meaning they are actions that are enforceable, right? And then on the right side, you see a signed transaction, right? Just simple as it is. You tell your Corda node what to do, and then your Corda node will give you a signed transaction. Well, signed transaction meaning that it's not only the Corda node signs it, it will also at the same time reach out to the counterparty and get their signature on the transaction. That means like at that point, when your executable, when your order, when your instruction come back from the Corda node, it will actually give you a already signed or already updated transaction on your ledger. So that's what the Corda node offers. I didn't talk about the key management and data distribution, but again, this is all taken care of for you by the Corda node. So actually, as a developer, or like if you are a startup founders thinking about, how would I actually build a system? And that's the next topic that we're going to talk about. CorDapp. So what's a CorDapp? So CorDapp is a Corda decentralized applications. As a developer or as a startup founders, all you need to care about is write your applications, because like how you set up a network, how you participate, those are the easy stuff. So I was talking about the Corda nodes take an instruction which is like the flow. So yeah, all those instructions, all those transaction command, they are in the applications. So as long you learn how to write applications, you are good to go to set up your own blockchain network. And I will explain a little bit in details of CorDapps. So CorDapps are just binary jars that are stored inside of Corda nodes, and each node can carry multiple CorDapps. This is all tie back to what we were talking about, a global, interoperable, cross-industry ecosystem. Like your node can also be used for doing multiple business network. For example, if you are a farmer, right, that you have crops, you have like corn, you have like soybeans, so you participate in a green business network, right? They produce cornstarch, maybe like soy sauce, like stuff like that. So you can participate in the supply chain of that one. But at the same time, you have cows, right? You just own a very large farmland, and then the cows can produce milk, so you can actually participate in the meat, like the beef industry, right? The meat industry. And at the same time, you can participate in the milk industry. So that means when you have a Corda node, all you need to do is just like drop the binary jars into your Corda nodes, and then once you start a node, all those 3 applications are gonna start running simultaneously, and then we will receive a transaction from the milk industry consortium or like association. You just do transaction with the milk, right? And then when you receive a transaction regarding your meat business, your beef meat business, then you just like that application will kick off. So everything is handled by the node. That's the relationship between the CorDapp and the Corda node. Cool. I will pause here right there, and then I would quickly check the chat. See if we have any further questions. Cool. It looks like David is doing a good job answering all those questions. I will jump back and then talk about another thing that people may care about: how blockchains in a Corda. So, after we are already 30 minutes in, and then some people may be like, oh, wait a minute, but like we want to know like blockchain, but like so far you haven't talked about how the blocks chains up in the CorDapp. So data are stored as states, basically like object in the Corda nodes database, and the state are updated via transaction. So you can actually see the transaction as the chains, and then the state are the blocks. And after a transaction, your state either get consumed or updated, and then that's how you in the Corda system, the block chains up. And traceback is also easy. So you just you just grab the state that you finally produce as output, and then you trace back via transaction hashes one by one by one. Eventually you will find you are in the Bitcoin way they call it Genesis block, but in the Corda world it's just like the very first input state that you created of your transaction. And that means like if you look at your transactions, Corda, for each transaction, Corda adopts the UTXO model. It's called unspent transaction output model. So the data is never really deleted from the database. That's actually good. People don't want data gets randomly deleted. That's the downside. One of the downside of a centralized database. So hence Corda holds the immutable nature of the DLT system by such. And we have a diagram right here. It depicts three transactions: transaction 1, transaction 2, and then transaction 3. So with transaction 1, we have an input 0 and output 0, input 1 and output 1. So that basically just means like the transaction, I'm taking 2 inputs and I produce 2 outputs. Fair enough. And then let's take a look at the top right of the diagram. Transaction number 2. I take another random input called input 2, but I took the output from the transaction 1 and then use this as my input of my later transaction, my future transaction 2. So that's how we change up the state. Because if you look at the previous transaction, you will always find the input is some other transaction's output. So that's how in the Corda system, the idea of blockchain exists. Cool. That's the section on CorDapp. So in summary, when building a CorDapp, when building a decentralized applications, Corda provides a simple abstraction. That means it's easy to implement the CorDapp, and then also like the learning curve is low. Like we are Java supported, and the Corda nodes abstract away the complexity of updating the ledger, as I spent a lot of time on previous slide. And second thing is Corda offers comprehensive development tooling. So I was briefly introducing the network bootstrapper. That means as a developer, like how would you participate in this fancy blockchain world? You only need to like develop the application code, because the rest we have, if you are using the open source version, we have the free network bootstrapper, right? We also have a node explorer. You can actually see what's going on with your node. That means like with the node explorer, you have like a nice fancy UIs. You can click and then see the database of your node. And lastly, we also offers VS Code extensions, because, for example, if you are, thinking about moving from Fabric to Corda. We also have the extensions because we know Fabric they use VS Code. But if you are just like a Java user for a long time, currently the Corda supports on the IntelliJ is 100%. Like it works on the Java code, it works on the source code, Kotlin source code. So that's it will be very easy for you to get your hands started. And lastly, from the product side, Corda offers a versatile feature sets. Currently, we have three signature feature set. The first one is Corda Settlers, and the second one is Token SDK, and the last one is Corda Accounts Library. So I wouldn't go into the details of each feature set. We have a hour-long session regarding of those feature set. So just look through in our YouTube channels, and then you will find them. Cool. So basically, that's what Corda offers when you try to build your decentralized application or participant, like thinking about participate in the blockchain world. So I think that's about it for the Corda 101. We will do a quick peek of what's really what's happening in the CorDapps, because we will have another hour session or 45-minute sessions next Tuesday on how to actually implement a CorDapp. But we can all take a look. We can all take a peek here. So on the left, we see the Titan technology, and then the top right is a Transcorp Inc., and then the last one is ACME International. So we just randomly pick different names. It's a little bit different than the sample that from the previous slide, but it's okay. So in the node, there's a service called the Vault. So basically, the Vault is a database of the node. And then you see right now at Titan technology, the node's database holds a state, and it's a Camaro. And at ACME International company, their node in their database, they have some cache. So both things, they are Corda state, because as I mentioned, in the Corda world, everything, every object that you want to get recorded or updated or consumed, there has to be a state. Same thing applies here. The Camaro is state, and then the cache is a state. And then when they want to basically use the cache to buy the Camaros, the second how would I say, second features of the CorDapp kicks in, which is a contract. Because when you want to do a transaction, it has to follow some sort of some kinds of business rules. So those are the contract. The contract verifies different rules. For example, the Camaro is $30,000 that we agree on, right? And then the second contract rule is the Camaro is a 2020 edition, not the 2019 edition, right? All those things are verified, and then you put a check mark on your end, and then you send a session to the counterparty, and then the counterparty verifies the contract again, and then put a check mark on there, and then that's basically the second step of your transaction. The third step is, they do the exchange. That means you composite the transaction, you put your input as a cache, and then you put your output as a Camaro, because that's what you are exchanged for. And that transaction will actually go to the notary to verify, is there any double spend on the money, and then is there any double spend on the Camaro. And once the notary says, okay, everything is I first time seeing it, nobody used that ever before, you guys are good to go. And then the transaction will fire up, transaction will fire back to the initiator, whether it's Titan Technology or ACME Internationals. So the transaction will now have signatures from the counterparty, both sides, and also has a signature from the notary. And at that point, you see on the left side, so this represents the output of the Titan technology, the Camaro becomes, disappearing, and then they receive money. And then on the right side, basically, it depicts the outputs that the ACME International gonna get is a Camaro, like become solid, right? And then the cash becomes like it's disappearing, right? You pay for the Camaro, basically. That's the story. So, if for example, like if you try to trick the system, if you try to trick your counterparty, right? Like, for example, you put your money as input and then you also put your money as output, right? Then your counterparty contract gonna say, oh, no. I'm not giving you my Camaro. At the same time, I'm not getting the money. So the contract will actually verify the transaction. And the entire process is called a flow. So we don't label it here, but basically that's the three aspect of a CorDapp is the state, which is the object, the transaction, or primarily is like the contract checking, the contract, and then the whole action, the interaction between you, counterparty, and the notary, like the process is called the flow. And that's basically the three part of a CorDapp. Cool. Any questions on the quick look of the CorDapp? I will quickly check the chat. Oh, I see a quick question. Only one notary in the whole Corda network? Oh, no, of course not. So there are multiple notaries in the global Corda network, and if you want to start your own private network, you can have as many as you want. So and also when I say notary, I really means notary clusters. So in the notary cluster, you can choose to only have one notary, but also you can choose to have 5 notaries, and that's when you like you implement the on-ledger consensus algorithm. For example, you want that 5 notary nodes to do BFT, the most like time-consuming way, but you would think like they reach the highest consensus, or they reach the highest mutual consensus. If you feel free to implement the BFT, or raft, a little bit easier, or round robin. That's that's just like oh you do work today, tomorrow notary 2 do work. So that's the idea is basically it's a notary cluster, but for less spending less the cost of the network, a lot of our clients, they just stick with one notary for their network, which is fine, because again, primary Corda is a permissioned private network. A lot of the consensus is reached when you onboard a client. The algorithm algorithmically consensus is the only reason that sometimes they are implemented is they just try to prevent the bad apples. Used to be good BFFs, and someone just turn turn bad on you. So that's the reason that if someone want to do a consensus algorithm in their notary clusters, and of course Corda is also good with the legal pros. That means all the contract you can attach them as the PDF in the code. So when you want to file a complaint, you want to take it to court, right? That's what happened in the real life. Is like we take it to the court, right? You want not only able to show your contract code, but at the same time you want the contract that you can download it from the transaction. So yeah, that's another sort of important feature that our clients value is the legal pros of Corda. Questions. Do you have a documentation on how many nodes per organization, or how would the company know how many public key it would need? So, Corda is very flexible. So you can have as many nodes you want. However, like each node just need to have a different name when you're onboarding all of the nodes to the network. So for example, if like my company is called Peter Corp, right? Peter Corp. I can have like 10 nodes, but it's just like if I want to onboard them to the same network, I need to name them Peter Corp 1, Peter Corp 2, Peter Corp 3, right? So that's like you have 10 different identities, but they all belong to me. It's fine. And how many public keys? It's like the public key normally is generated on the go because we have a feature called the confidential identity. That means when you want to do like a secret transaction with your counterparty and you want to prevent your counterparty showing that transaction to a third party, you can actually mask your identity. So even though your counterparty shows that transaction to the third party, the third party wouldn't know who you are. So that's called the confidential identity, and that process requires require you to generate a new private key and public key pair on the go. So I really can't give you an estimate that how many keys that you need for your application. Are there Corda contracts accepted by the court as evidence? I mean, as of today, I'm not sure. I can check with my our legal team to see if there's really lawsuit file and then use Corda contract as evidence. However, as I mentioned before, you can always just upload your your contract like literally 60-page contract PDF version to your transaction, and that PDF actually gonna send over the network like every time you do a transaction. So I mean, of course not the physical file, it's like the hash of the PDF. So that means when you take it to the court, I don't know what's the process really gonna be like, but you can show that this file is coupled, right, packaged with my transaction. So whatever that we supposed to do there, here's the contract. So that's how we how would I imagine what's gonna happen in the court. But so far I think I heard no, but I can double check with you. Sure. It looks we are good with the questions, and we are 47 minutes in. Today it's supposed to be a 15-minute session, and I think I will stop right here, and then our last slide, ready for the next workshop. We have the implementation code level bootcamp workshop on the next Thursday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern time on July 23rd. And lastly, we have a special topic on July 30th. I will keep it a little bit. I will keep the surprise until then. So make sure you join our special topic session on July 30th. And okay, I will tip you guys off. It's gonna be tools. So it's like how you can basically operate your Corda smarter and better and quicker. So that's the session, but I wouldn't tell you what it is. And if you wanna stick with us for the next sessions, actually developer bootcamps. Here's the preparation you need for the bootcamp. Download IntelliJ, install Java 1.8. Currently, Corda does not work with Java 11 or Java 13, but we have research undergoing. So also, again, I guess keep in touch. So once you see the news that Corda start supporting 1.11, that's will be in our press release. And lastly, if you want to follow our next workshop locally on your machine, clone the Bootcamp CorDapp at just github.com/Corda/Bootcamp CorDapp. And if you've done that three, you are good to go. So you can follow our bootcamp, use your local machine. We also have an online IDE, so you don't need to do anything with your local machine. You can just open up the browser and then start following the bootcamp. That's also doable, but the reason that I'm showing this preparation work is like just in case you want to continue your development locally, those are the only 3 things you need to do. Sure. I guess yeah, that's the thank you note, but but I wouldn't stay on this. So yeah, again, this is Peter. I'm from the DevRel team at R3. Thank you for attending this Corda intro workshop, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. And I see you in our next session. Thank you.